Ladies and gentlemen, our top lead. As the Israel-Hamas war enters day 20, there has been a shock for India from the Middle East. A court in Qatar has sentenced 8 former Indian Navy officers to death. The charge against them, spying, and not spying for India, but spying for Israel. These former Indian Navy officers, some of whom are decorated heroes, have found themselves imprisoned in Qatar for over a year now. They have endured stretches of agonizing solitary confinement as well. Their ordeal began in August 2022 when they were arrested on charges of espionage, spying, and state-sponsored terrorism. The news of the verdict today has sent shockwaves through India, with the government expressing its deep concern over the incident. India says it will explore every legal avenue to secure the release of its citizens. Question is, who are these 8 ex-Indian Navy officers? Captain Navtej Singh Gill, Captain Birendra Kumar Verma, Captain Saurabh Vasisht, Commander Amit Nagpal, Commander Purnendu Tiwari, Commander Sugunakar Pakala, Commander Sanjeev Gupta and Sailor Ragesh are the ones who've been handed a death sentence by a Qatari court. Commander Purnendu Tiwari is a distinguished naval veteran who once served as the managing director of the Dahra Global Technologies in Qatar. In fact, he's someone who has won an award of the most prestigious Pravasi Bharatiya Samman in 2019. It's the highest honor bestowed upon an overseas Indian. His remarkable career has seen him command multiple warships during his tenure in the Indian Navy. Now, these 8 former Navy personnel were being tried on allegations of spying on Qatar's program to acquire high-tech submarines from Italy. Qatar suspects them of being spies for Israel. As per news reports, Qatar's State Security Intelligence Agency is claiming to have intercepted electronic communications that point to the naval officers' involvement in this submarine espionage. The Indian Ministry of External Affairs has conveyed its deep shock at the death penalty given. The MEA is also saying that it is in touch with families and legal teams of the detainees and is leaving no stone unturned to explore all legal options that are currently available to them. The ministry has affirmed its commitment to provide counselor and legal assistance to these 8 officers and says it will raise the issue with Qatari authorities. So the question is, will these officers be sent to the gallows? The Qatari Penal Code is broad when it comes to capital punishment. It doesn't limit it to just the most serious crimes, but extends it to loosely defined crimes against the state and honor crimes. Executions, however, are exceedingly rare. The last one occurred in May 2020. That execution ended a 17-year hiatus. The murderer from Nepal had to face a firing squad. The fate of these 8 Indian Navy veterans now hangs in the balance, casting a spotlight on a situation that demands careful diplomatic maneuvering and international attention. The verdict has been given by the Court of First Instance in Qatar. Think of it as a district court in India. The verdict can be and will be challenged in a higher court, which is the Court of Appeals. Let's try and understand the subject matter a little better. N.K. Sood is a former RAW officer joining us on the broadcast. Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti is a former secretary of the MEA. Maroof Raza is a consulting editor at the Times Network. Gentlemen, thank you very much. First, to someone who served in the Middle East. Mr. Chakravarti, I'm coming to you first. In a situation that India finds itself in, I want to ask you whether there is any reason for us to feel shocked. Fact is that the trial has been going on for a year. Fact also is that in Qatar, the punishment for espionage/spying is the death penalty. So, should India be shocked? And what does India do from here on?
For espionage, rarely, I think, any country gives the death penalty. I mean, espionage is something that goes on all the time in different countries. Yes, we are shocked. I think it's quite natural to be shocked because after 1 year. And the problem is that the system there in Qatar is very opaque, and you don't know what the courts are doing. I don't think these are open courts where people can sit and hear arguments like we are used to hear. It is Qatar is a kind of a monarchy with a family-run, monarchy. It's not a democracy, and so there's a huge lack of transparency in what happens. So yes, it is that this has led to this kind of a sort of a to the death penalty, which I think is uncalled for. And although I don't know the details of what happened, because nobody seems to know the court proceedings or what happened in court, it has been fairly opaque. But I do believe that this is quite an extreme. I hope it is challenged, and ultimately it will require. I'm also not sure whether this is a very politicized kind of a situation where some other countries may be involved. I'm not naming them, and made allegations, etc. So I think we'll have to just wait and see, and the government of India will, I'm sure, take it up at the higher levels to ensure that justice is done.
Okay, Maroof Raza, let's see. There's a long way for that. As I said, the verdict has been delivered from a court which is the first layer of Qatar's judicial system. There is an appeals court, and after that is their Supreme Court. So the matter is not ending here. The legal fight will continue, I'm fairly certain. But Maroof Raza, there is Mr. Chakravarti referring to it as perhaps as something that could be the result of the politics of the Middle East that is currently underway. Is that how you see it?
Well, from what I understand, the first element is that ever since 2018, that Qatar went in for defense production and defense-related production, there has been a lot of rivalry on the ground between companies wanting to get contracts and therefore trying to nail those who are coming in their way. Secondly, one of the major holdings there in Qatar has a very influential businessman with links to the royal family, who is obviously looking at various options that are available for furthering his business interests. And in this whole game, there is also a view that Pakistanis who are all over the Middle East have been giving all sorts of tip-offs and false information to the authorities about the role India plays. Now, please understand, these are 8 Navy men with a very impressive track record. And those who go to the Middle East can't collectively all fall into the trap of spying. One odd bad hat might be there. So therefore, to assume all 8 Indians are at fault and the others who are operating there are not, because the same company for which they are working, this company has been pushing for deals in Europe, Italy, and other parts of the European arms industry. And therefore, there are a lot of elements involved. And I am a bit surprised that they were in custody for months at an end, and there was no news about that in the Indian media. Suddenly, they've been given a death sentence, and we made it the #1 headline. How is it that it missed your and my attention for all these months? Also, Qatar has a shipbuilding and a submarine program. A shipbuilding and submarine programs. India doesn't have just the entire expertise in this field. India itself builds its ships and submarines, but they're not of the world-class level that some of the other European countries make, whether it's the French or the Italians or whoever. Now, the fact is that if your programs are not that top end, how is it that all the Indians were sucked into this program and suddenly only Indians were found to be passing information to the Israelis or whoever? What about the others who were involved?
Yeah.
Because in all these defense research initiatives, no one person works in isolation. There is a lot of sharing of information and expertise that goes to create a product. So to again shortlist only Indians as responsible for it, obviously there is a conspiracy. Some people are saying there is a Pakistani hand, and you know the Pakis are all over the place. So they could be creating a situation by giving tip-offs that India is passing information. And Israel, let me tell you, doesn't need information from a program of Qatar because A, its own defense industry is pretty advanced. B, it gets a lot of top-end military hardware from the Americans who have a far more advanced maritime initiative than Qatar or any Arab country can hope to have. So I find a lot of gaps in this argument.
NK Sood, are you smelling a conspiracy like Maroof Raza is?
Yeah.
Mr. Sood, can you hear me? Okay, let me take that question to Mr. Chakravarti. Mr. Chakravarti, as we try and fix the audio connection with Mr. Sood, Mr. Chakravarti, A, do you smell a conspiracy? And B, the fact is, what I'm surprised... Okay, it's okay. Mr. Sood, then would you want to take that question? Maroof Raza very clearly is smelling a conspiracy and he's telling us why. Is that something you smell as well? And what surprises me is the complete lack of communication between India and Qatar on the subject, given that Qatar and India are on friendly terms. That is what surprises me.
Actually, India is friendly with Qatar, but not to that extent. Maroof Raza has naturally pointed out certain very valid points. But my main concern is that this step that Qatar has taken against the 8 Navy officers is to punish India. To punish India for supporting Israel in present war that is going on between Hamas and Israel. In Qatar, all the major militants, whether it's the Taliban or Hamas, they are based there, top leadership is based in Qatar, so they are naturally disturbed, they are naturally concerned. And on the other hand, Qatar was a member of GCC, it's a member of GCC, but even Saudi Arabia had kept Qatar for 4 years out of GCC. Now, the main reason for Qatar targeting this 8 Indian Navy personnel is India's support to Israel. Actually, these people were taken into custody on 30th of August 2022. Police knocked at their doors. They were working for a consultancy firm in Qatar. And they said, we want you for some training, etc., to this Qatar army officers. And they took them. They took them to jail. But after 2 months, in October, they sent them back to their houses, pack your bags and go back to India. That was their indication, but suddenly there was a U-turn. They changed their mind. They put them in the jail. Earlier, they were put in a solitary confinement, but thereafter, they were put in a group of 2 in jail. And it was hoped that these people will be released very soon. The last meeting, the last case, the last date of the case was 3rd October 2023. And it was hoped that these officers will be sent back to India and rejoin their families by Diwali. But this sudden change of action is because India is supporting Israel in Hamas-Israel war, and Qatar has taken this action to punish India.
Okay. Mr. Chakravarti, would you want to come in here? Is this Qatar punishing India for supporting Israel? I ask you this question because these 3 Navy veterans, these 8 Navy veterans actually, have been in a Qatari jail for the last 1 year. So the case has been ongoing. The Israel-Hamas war is only 20 days old. Does what Mr. Sood is saying tie up for you?
Well, I cannot go along with that argument because, as you yourself points, out that it's been almost a year old, and there was nothing. There was no tension with Hamas, or things were pretty normal there. And so, but the timing of the death sentence means something, I think, because at the moment it is being, the war is going on between Hamas and Israel. So that is a little, surprising, and I could smell some kind of a political thing here, but that would be speculation, and I don't want to go there. But the point is that that are they doing this to punish India? I would say probably not, because this case has been going on for over a year, and why suddenly now? But the timing, as I say and I repeat, is a little odd and suspicious, because why pronounce the death sentence now? And has the case suddenly ended in that court, or it was going on and there was some political pressure to announce the death sentence now? So these are all speculative kind of things, and it is quite possible.
But Mr. Chakrabarti,
exactly...
does India have any leverage with Qatar? Look, my understanding is that India and Qatar is, of course, a monarchy, but India and Qatar have been on friendly terms. At least that is the impression and the understanding that I have. If that is the case, will India have enough leverage to make necessary phone calls and say, just hold this for a moment, give us consular access so that we can give these guys some legal assistance? Or just send them home. If you're suspecting them of spying, why hand them the death punishment? Just send them home. We'll deal with them.
Well, I think there have been negotiations, and there was a time when I think there was a possibility of them being sent home, etc. But somehow something changed, and somebody intervened, and they did a U-turn, and all kinds of things happened. And so it's not, as I said, it's not transparent. It's fairly opaque. We do not know internally what is happening, who's complaining against whom, and what is the intention. Are they trying to leverage something with India by holding these people and now announcing the death sentence? Because India is naturally agitated and will be taking it up, and to the extent that it'll go the whole way up to whatever legal challenges that can be done. And also, I think India will take it up at the political level and diplomatic and political level. I'm quite confident that will happen.
Maroof Raza, as I said, what shocked me was the fact that there was a complete lack of communication. Between two countries that are friendly. Absolutely right. Things have been opaque. We don't know much about the case. We don't know, how this trial has functioned. Suddenly, Qatar is telling us that a death sentence has been handed over to 8 of our Navy veterans. I want to ask you if you, like Mr. Sood, are seeing a link between the Israel-Hamas war and what has happened in Qatar.
No, I don't see an serious link, because a lot of things can be attributed at this point of time, because the entire situation in the Middle East is quite dynamic. But what is interesting to note that the company Dahra Global that these gentlemen were working for, A, it was not in the submarine business. B, the company is closing shop and shutting down. So these guys have been pulled out of nowhere and told that you are involved in spying. But the fact is that the company that they were working with didn't focus too much on expertise of submarine manufacturing. They were into other activities of defense and maritime activities. So that also doesn't add up. What I believe is that there is a lot of pressure on the senior authorities in Qatar after 1 year of procrastinating over what to be done with these guys, suddenly to issue a verdict when there has been no steady movement in that field for some time. So, I mean, a lot of things don't add up. Where I point fingers at the Ministry of External Affairs. What has the MEA done in the last 1 year to not let the situation come to such a pass? I think that needs to be answered, because just by having an embassy or a mission there doesn't mean you solve your problem. If Pakistan did something like that with Commander Jadhav, Pakistan, will always do what you are not in your interest. But Qatar to do something, we have very large trading links with Qatar. We have a huge amount of import of CNG gas and other things from Qatar. And this Emir of Qatar has visited India a couple of times. I think he was amongst the first Middle Eastern leaders to visit us. So there are signs of a good, healthy relationship. How has it gone completely out of turn, out of this? Is it that we've just taken them for granted? Is it that they are now wanting India to take a position on one thing or the other? But India cannot change this major stand on the Middle East conflict because it's influenced by countries like the United States. Please remember, when Mr. Trump visited the Middle East, he declared Qatar a sponsor of terror. Why? Because Qatar did not buy arms from the United States. Suddenly, Qatar now has become a good guy, more so after hosting the World Cup football. So, these kind of things keep changing. And we should wait and watch, as has been brought up by Ambassador Pinak and yourself, that this is a lower court and matter will go higher up and the verdict would be argued and changed. This is not the final fatwa.
Okay, this is not the final fatwa. We'll leave it there for the moment, but it's important to note and have some figures here. In 2021, India ranked amongst the top 4 export destinations for Qatar. Additionally, India is among the top 3 sources of Qatar's imports. The bilateral trade between the two countries is valued at some $15 billion, with a significant portion of it being attributed to LNG, which is liquefied natural gas, and liquefied petroleum gas, that is LPG. Exports from Qatar are worth over $13 billion. So this is a good relationship. We have a good, solid relationship with Qatar. There is no reason why India cannot intervene at this point of time and get this verdict overturned. We'll leave it there, gentlemen. We'll see how the story progresses. Thank you very much. After all, it's the lives of 8 Navy veterans that is a risk as we speak. NK Sood, thank you very much. Maroof Raza, thank you very much. And Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, thank you very much for your time as well.